Song Revolution with John Chisholm on the NRT Podcast Network.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's Song Revolution. I'm so glad that you're here. We've been doing this show since 2017, and I want to thank you for tuning in and sharing out every episode that's meaningful for you. We're just getting started here in season 2, and it's going to be a big one. If you're watching by video, you can see on the screen behind me Kirk Sauers and Paul Ranheim, pictured here with Sandra McCracken. And these guys started writing together during 2020, during the COVID pandemic, and they each are musicians and ministers in their own right, but they've come together to do something called the Wood Drake Sessions, and that comes out of a Wendell Berry poem where there's a reference to the wood drake, and you'll have to go look that up. I had to go figure out what that was, but it is an incredible collaboration. These guys have released their first EP, and it's just absolutely stunning. I love these songs, and even more, I love these guys. They came to my podcast studio here south of Nashville, and we had just an incredible afternoon listening to their music, talking about where they came from, talking about what they're up to. And I love these guys. They're beautiful. The instrumentation is very acoustic and very worshipful and very unique. So I want to just encourage you to listen in today and hear about their creative process and how they're going about this unique collaboration that they're calling the Wood Drake Sessions. It's a little weird, but they are absolutely amazing. All right, Kirk and Paul, I'm just teasing. It's not weird. It's actually pretty creative and pretty amazing. So, hey, you guys are in for a treat today. They share a song here in the program, so be sure and tune in and then go check out their music on all of their streaming outlets. And again, be sure to share out this episode or any of the episodes if you're being blessed by what we're doing here on Song Revolution. We have so many things to offer you at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. We have a brand new program called the NCS Pro Song Accelerator, and I hope that you'll go over to the website, check it out, sign up, and let us coach you in your own songwriting. All right, God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in today, and enjoy Paul and Kirk, the Wood Drake Sessions. All right, well, it is an exciting day here in the Chiz Pod. I have Kirk Sauers and Paul Ranheim, who are releasing a great new album called the Wood Drake Sessions. Welcome, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks. Great to be with you, John.
Now, which one's Wood and which one's Drake?
I'm Wood. This is Drake.
Have you been asked that before? Is that a time question?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, just open this up for us, man. What are you guys up to? What's the real story? What's really going on here?
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, well,
that's wide open.
That's
a wide open question.
Yeah. Well, we released our album called From the Valley to the Golden Shore on April 29th. And it's just been a sort of a 2-year journey to bring that album about. And we're finally are in the place where we've been able to release it. And so we're sort of just breathing that in and enjoying it and trying to share the music with others.
So here in Nashville this week, doing some publicity and podcast and anything you can get into to share the word.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, tell us who you guys are. Paul, who are you, man? I mean, we can get into the music and songs and all that, but who are you, man? Who's the man behind the mask here?
Man, how long do we want to talk? Yeah, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm a Northwest boy. I spent some time in my childhood living overseas, some time in South Africa and Mexico. Did my undergrad up at Whitworth University in songwriting and music composition.
Which university?
Whitworth.
Whitworth.
In Spokane, Washington.
Spokane.
Just down the road from Gonzaga. Not Gonzaga, Gonzaga. Yeah, and so I've been writing ever since. I've been playing music ever since I was 3. Grew up in a really musical family and been writing ever since I was about 12 years old, I think.
Well, what took you guys overseas?
My dad was a physician and my mom's a nurse, and so we had some medical missions overseas. And then it kind of gave me the bug, and I ended up, once I was in college, spent a little bit of time living down in Ecuador, and then where was I? Guatemala. And then after I graduated, moved up to Alaska. I was a conductor of a railway up there for 6 years.
Just for fun?
Just for fun.
I mean, come on.
Why not?
Well, I can think of quite a few reasons why not for me, but I mean, I guess it was your deal, right? What were you doing? Directing a railway? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I was a conductor on a railway.
You are the first one I've ever met. So, wow.
There you go.
What a privilege.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? How do you do that?
Yeah, so you have the engineer who drives the train. He's up in the in the engines.
Well,
And
what
then-
kind of train? Like,
So it was like it was a historic train built back for the 1898 gold rush, the Klondike Gold Rush.
no kidding.
That's right. So it was built for the gold rush to get miners up and over this like very steep mountain pass to get them through Alaska up into British Columbia, and actually all the way up to the Yukon Territory. And
See, I think you should lead your publicity with it. I mean, we're going to talk to your guy, Brian, over here. And we're I think you should lead with that, you know?
I can give my whole tour. I
well, I
started as a
mean-
tour guide, so like
Sure, yeah. How did it start? What would you say? Do you remember?
the very first things, I was probably like welcome, some sort of welcome thing, but I can't remember exactly
You'd
the
say,
first story.
All aboard.
Yeah.
I had so many tourists wanting me to say that, but I don't think I ever did in my 6 years there. Yeah.
That is crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, it's such an odd thing to be a conductor and on a historic train.
Yeah, that's right.
Has
Yeah.
anything scary ever happened?
There were definitely a few scary things. I remember actually right at the beginning I was a tour guide, and I was on the mic, so my voice is being broadcast across 15 train cars, 500 people, and we were about halfway up the ride, and there were helicopter tours that would come in and land on these helicopter pads, drop people off to go hiking. And as we were coming up to the helicopter pads, the conductor at the time came and said, "Hey, Paul, just so you know, there's been a little accident, nothing to be concerned about, but like just be aware of it." And as we come up around the corner, one of the helicopters had clipped the trees and flipped upside down.
No.
And all of like the inflatable like rafts popped out, windows were broken. I mean, it looked awful. Everyone walked away safely. But I remember driving by and being like, what just happened?
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
it looks like everyone died. Thankfully, no one did.
Oh,
So
wow.
there are a few scary things like that, but for the most part, it was all wholesome fun and
Wow.
just watching bears and glaciers.
There you go.
Yeah.
And was that after college?
Yeah, so it was right after college.
After college, okay.
Yep.
First job out of college.
Yep.
Any songs come out of that?
Oh, lots of songs. Oh, I wrote so many songs up in Alaska. It was a blast. Played out at a couple restaurants. There's a little band that we played with as well. One of the guys, local guys, we joined with his washboard, and I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun playing music up there.
Interesting.
Yep.
So do you ever feel like those experiences, speak into what you're doing now at all? Anything you draw on from?
I don't know if anything is like directly, but it certainly is a part of my story. Like it's inescapable. I can't
Yeah.
get away from that.
Yeah.
And certainly the sense of adventure and the beauty and the pure fun, delight that I had up there. I mean, it informs a lot of my life and a lot of why. I mean, it's the same thing that led me to Colorado as well. Like, I love being by those mountains, and I love the sense of adventure and delight. So, I'm sure it makes its way into the songs.
Yeah.
In little
yeah.
pieces here and there.
It's part of the fabric of who you are, and
Yeah.
it's the love of beauty, the love of God's nature, creation that He's created. So.
Yeah. In fact, like, I'm looking at the album cover right next to you. I lived up in Skagway. It was at the end of a long fjord, and I'm only right now putting together that looks a lot like where I lived up there.
Yeah, it's cool. It looks like a wood cutting or something. But I'm
Yeah.
sure it's just a pen drawing very cool covers. So,
Yeah.
What about you, Kirk? Who are you behind all that curly black hair?
Well, Paul's northwest. I am southeast. So grew up in Georgia, just right outside of Atlanta. And yeah, I didn't come from maybe as musical a family, but my mother was a piano teacher growing up. And I rebelled hard against that. She tried to give me lessons.
Oh, mama.
There's something about, taking lessons from your mother. It just didn't work.
Right. It's just not cool.
And so she finally let me pick up a guitar and sold at that point. And yeah, so I started writing songs as well pretty early on. I was probably around 14 or 15, and I was mostly writing stuff with people in my church, but I'm also just a huge country music fan, and from a little more on the 80s and 90s and country. So I have a lot of influence there, and started writing some songs kind of in that space as well. So after I graduated college at Georgia College, I spent a few years in college ministry, and then I kind of came cold turkey and lived here in Nashville and did the whole
Just did it, man.
did the whole songwriting thing
Came
here.
and did it. Wow.
Yeah, I came up and I just started working at a Bongo Java in East Nashville. Was my first job here.
Yeah, I knew the
One
one
of
by
many
Belmont.
jobs.
I didn't know there was one over there in East Nashville too.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still there, but yeah. So I spent a number of years here in that world, and
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
before we go on, I mean,
Yeah.
anytime Bongo Java comes up, I have to bring up the Mother Teresa Bun.
oh yes,
Do you know
yeah,
about that?
I do know about
Did
it.
you
Yeah.
see it?
I don't think I saw the actual physical Mother Teresa bun, but I at least saw a picture of it.
Does it still exist? I wonder.
It's got to.
I have to
It's
look that
probably
up.
in like I can't remember the name of the owner of Bongo Java, but it's probably he's got it probably behind a glass case.
It's probably in the
somewhere.
Louvre by now, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Maybe the Smithsonian.
Well,
Might-
could
yeah,
could be
It's one of those
if
things.
they're that cool. Well, for those of you listening, Bongo Java Coffee here in Nashville is pretty famous for having accidentally baked a bun that looked like Mother Teresa.
And it really did. Really did.
Yeah, not
So-
quite an apparition of Mother Mary, but kind of
Close,
getting
maybe.
close. Yeah. Apologies to our
Exactly.
Roman Catholic listeners, but anyway, so you were here trying to do the deal and
Yeah, and
serving up coffee and
well, I served coffee. I drove a produce truck for a number of years. I worked for a publicist. I did any.
oh, cool.
Actually, we were just over at a place that I saw. I was like, I did a temp job there, like for 6 months. You know what I mean? And I was like, just thinking about all the random jobs I had during my tenure living in Nashville. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So 3 years, and then you gave up the ghost here? Or
Well, I was here actually about 8 years.
Oh, 8 years,
Part
okay.
of a little over 8 years, almost 9 actually. And I had basically I was a part of a church plant in town, and so a lot of what I did during my time here was I did a lot of songwriting, and I basically helped a church on the south side of town get planted. And we worked with. That was such an amazing experience, just in terms of I feel like I learned so much during that time, and it was a powerful time in my life and how God worked in my life. But we worked with a lot of guys in halfway houses, and we sort of had a church that was sort of, it was a very norm for somebody from like a halfway house or, even off the streets. Just our church was a place you could easily come and felt very at home at. And so that was a special season in my life, but a lot of songs came out of that in that space as well. But so, yeah.
Yeah, so now COVID hits, you guys connect to write on Zoom, and so the Wood Drake Sessions, this new record, is kind of a COVID baby. It's sort of a way, right?
Anyways,
Your creative baby here. So
Well put.
yeah, well, take us into that whole thing, how this all came about, and what made you decide to start working on this, and where Wood Drake comes from.
yeah. So we were wanting to write music again, even though one piece that I left out. I actually lived here in Nashville for 3 years.
You were the one for 3 years. I
Yeah.
thought one of you was here for 3 years.
That's right. I was here for 3 years. So I'm songwriter, also pastor, was out in Santa Barbara here for 3 years. And then Kirk and I both moved away and wanted to start writing again because we had so enjoyed our time writing together here in Nashville. And so we started out trying to find ways to do it on Zoom. And right at that time is when COVID hit. And so
Wow.
so we had both carved out spaces. I think, Kirk, were you at your church?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was in. You talking about where we were right?
Yeah,
I was
or the
in-
Zoom.
Yeah, I was in. I would write from the children's nursery in my
That's
church.
right.
'cause that was like where I could get the most sunlight in my church.
Yeah. Or internet, right?
Yeah, or internet.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd taken. I was with my brother at the time, and his basement had a closet, and so I'd converted that over to a studio and put like carpet down and built the desk for it. And then COVID hit, and he needed to use his office, so there was a smaller closet next to that, and that's what I started writing music in. And anyway, that's where we really started writing our songs, was on Zoom. It really wasn't necessarily for a project. It was simply us singing the songs our hearts needed to sing. It was the things that we needed to believe during those upside down crazy times. And
When did you realize, hey, this is a thing? We're writing a thing here. When did that happen? You know, I mean, you're writing songs just because you needed to, you wanted to, but when did it hit?
I think honestly, we'd probably written maybe after 4 or 5, maybe 6 songs.
I thought probably about 2 to 3 months.
Yeah,
We're like, we should do something with this music.
yeah. Felt like
Yeah.
we wanted to at least try to record 1 or 2 of them if we could. And so, yeah, not too long. And I feel like we started really writing a good bit probably in March. And I would say probably by May of 2020, we were talking about, hey, let's go at least record a couple. And we actually, when we recorded 2 of the songs on the album, were actually recorded in 2020 and then released early 2021. And then we rolled them into the album. But they were sort of the first fruits of the recording.
And there were our testers. I was like,
Which
did these
ones
songs
were
have
they?
lit?
Yeah, right.
So
That's good though that you did that. Which ones were they?
the first tune was Never Shakes, Never Will. And the second tune was Tender and Mighty.
Awesome.
Yeah.
But you found out they really did stand up
Yeah.
and
It was-
walk a little bit.
We got great feedback. We knew churches that started singing them and using them, and those churches gave us really good feedback. So it was enough good, optimistic encouragement that we thought, you know what, for us to steward these songs well, it means we need to record these and get them out to the world.
Mm.
Yeah.
And we in the middle of that, we kept writing, and I felt like we were also writing songs that we really loved. And it was like that we didn't want to see, you know, when you put the work of writing a song and you believe in the song, you don't want it to sit on your iPhone,
Right.
you know, and you really want to give it an opportunity to have the life it could have as a song. And so, yeah, that was part of that too. Is like, man, not only were we getting some positive feedback, like we really are liking the songs that we're putting together, and we want to keep doing this, you know. So
Nice. And you wound up collaborating with a couple of unknowns. Too bad. Scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
That's right.
So how was it working with Sandra and Leslie? And there's one other writer, right, that you worked with?
Well, Liz Weiss and Wendell Kimbrough.
Wendell. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right. So
Yeah.
how was that experience?
Just amazing. I mean, I would say every one of them was so generous to us along the way. I mean,
And probably a little different too. Pretty unique. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. They just, I feel like each one of them we had, as we were writing the songs, every time we wrote the song, we would say, I mean, for example, when we wrote "Oh How Good to Be Together," we both just felt like, I mean, Sandra McCracken would just sound so good on this song.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, Paul had actually knew Sandra, and so we just kind of asked, and she was just generously said yes, and was more than willing to do it. And we had a similar experience with kind of each of the artists we worked with. They were all so kind to be on it, and it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 4 for 4. I couldn't believe that all 4 asked. All 4 were like, yeah, I'd love to help. So super honored. They've all been so generous and kind and along the way.
Liz Weiss, man, such soul, such a voice. And she's up in the Northwest as well, isn't she?
She's out in LA.
LA, okay.
Yeah.
But I think she is from there, though, right? Like Portland or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I think that's what I read.
Yeah.
But such a voice and such a great song, and you know, the album holds together, even though you had these different co-writers and vocalists along with you. There's a nice kind of cohesiveness that goes with the record. A little bit R&B, a little bit rock, not too funky, but you know, a little bit. So
Yeah.
and that's just you guys.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm so encouraged you said that, because that was one of our fears going into it. As we were getting ready to print the CDs, is like, man, do these songs hold together?
Yeah.
Do they fit? And I'm really grateful that people have said they really do. Yeah.
The Leslie Jordan song, you know, at the end, it's just so tender. I love that. I love all of them, but that one especially is just very, I don't know. It's a great way to end the record. So.
Right. Yeah. That's funny you say that. That was we were trying to figure out, Well, one, we were trying to figure out, does record or does the number, like the order matter anymore, the way streaming is, but that's actually encouraging to hear that you kind of like walked through the record and the story.
I streamed it, of course, but I do pay attention to that.
Yeah.
I'm kind of old school that way. And
Well, we were very intentional in placing that last.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's encouraging to hear.
well, I do a lot of artist development here at Nashville Christian Songwriters, along with our programs and all of our freebies and everything we do. But I don't know. I hope I can bring some of that old school A&R back
Yeah.
to what artists are doing.
Right.
And it was always important to me growing up to read the liner notes and see who produced and who did what, the musicians and producers and all of it. And then just the way the whole thing flowed. I mean, you guys are kind of young, but my day was Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, and
There we go.
talk about an experience.
Yeah.
And and people like David Bowie and Jethro Tull and all of those albums, the Beatles, of course, and all of those albums were like little mini movies or books, and they were experiences, especially in the psychedelic years, It was all about that. So I still pay attention, and I thought it was really a very sweet benediction with that song.
Yeah.
Say the name of it because it's escaping me, the Leslie Jordan song.
Bountifully with me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. You've dealt bountifully with me.
Mhm.
Yeah. Beautiful. So what happens now?
You tell us. I don't know. We go, we come here,
Yeah, right.
have a conversation.
It's so strange. Like we've been sitting with some of these songs for 2 years, but in reality, they've only been born. And so right now, it's really like stewarding this part of the process. We've known about them. We've sang these for years, and yet so many of these are brand new songs. And so now it's just telling those stories. It's sharing it on podcasts or playing it at shows and being able to share the music. And so, yeah, I think I've said it already tonight or today, but we just wanted to steward the songs every step of the way. And if that meant singing it for our own local churches, great. If it means recording them, getting out there, or going on a podcast, then great.
Yeah. Are you guys going to tour around and try to do any dates, or is this more, hey, we're putting this online and trying to get people, to pay some attention to it?
We're both playing some dates, not a lot. Part of that is because, we both are committed and love our local churches. And so there's a limitation there, but as opportunities come up, and I know Kirk just did a show on Saturday down in Augusta, and we'll have a bigger event this summer down in Birmingham. And so as options come along and as we're allowed to, like we definitely enjoy it and look forward to those. And at the same time, are pretty committed on a regular basis.
Yeah. And these days you can do that. You can
Absolutely,
be a stay-at-home songwriter in a different way than you could 10 years ago.
Right.
So COVID has gotten us all online, as we all know. So people are consuming a lot more these days.
Yeah. It's one thing that has been special to me in this, just post the release, is having those opportunities to share the music in a live setting, because we were talking about this on the way here, just the uniqueness of connecting the music live is in person, and just having that personal connection with the music is special. And so we've really enjoyed those opportunities to play. They've been very sweet. And they really have. We did a really big show. We just got about every friend we knew in Augusta to come out and support us, and it was awesome. That was last year to kind of help start it was the kickoff to our Kickstarter, and man, it was just so much fun.
So much fun. Great band.
And just to hear how the music impacts people in those types of settings is really special.
What are your primary musical influences?
Man, that's there's a wide range. I could go between, I live in a world of I grew up on kind of some of the CCM things, like Rich Mullins and even some Caveman's Call in that world. Artists like James Taylor. I adore James Taylor. And then even with me, I grew up on country music, and I mean, just anything from Willie Nelson to George Strait and those places. I mean, that's in my soul as well.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like I feel like I could, it's one of those deals where I just feel like I need to journal that question.
Yeah, right.
Just to understand me,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
there's just so many wonderful influences along the way.
Well,
But,
do you remember the first song that ever moved you?
oh man, that's a great question.
Thank you.
That's a great
Love it
question.
when I have a great question.
Great question. I'd have to say my gut reaction to that is probably, I got two. Amarillo by Morning by George Strait.
Yeah.
Just absolutely love that song. And there's probably, man, I want to say like Hold Me Jesus, Rich Mullins.
Mhm.
That was a powerful song in my life. So
Yeah.
those are two guys I'm like,
Yeah, right.
definitely grew up from those guys and on those guys. And,
Were those the first songs that made you want to write?
I think the thing that made me want to write was actually a personal relationship I had who was of an artist in Atlanta, a guy named Mike Kimbrough. He's a local artist in Atlanta. He frequents Eddie's Attic a bit, if you've ever heard of Eddie's Attic. But I just met him through some mutual friends, and then he sort of led this Bible study. But he was it was and is a very gifted songwriter. And the moment I began to listen to him write songs, I knew I wanted to write songs. So I think that came more from a personal relationship.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. What about you,
Mm.
Paul? What was the first song that ever moved you as a kid?
Yeah, that's hard. In some ways, like music has always moved me. Like when I was 3, I saw my dad play, I saw my brother play. I'm like, my heart just yearned for it. So my mom
Okay.
had to go find like a piano teacher to teach me at 3 years old.
So
to
you
play.
don't know a song, but it was your dad and just music itself.
Yeah, but I can say like I remember like as I grew up, I mean some of the songs might even be like Disney songs, like listening to The Lion King and Elton
yeah.
John's music, who was huge influence on me to be Elton John.
Mm.
Like his music moved me so much in that. And I remember memorizing, I hadn't even seen Phantom of the Opera, but I knew the music by heart
Wow.
because it moved me so deeply. So I don't know, some of those, I mean, that have like a lot of story to it tended to just grab a hold of my heart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paperback Writer for me.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Beatles.
Yeah.
It was a 1963, maybe. I think I was 5. And my mom took me downtown Birmingham, Alabama to buy the 45.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. My dad and
Love
mom were
that.
musicians. And so I grew up in a very musical home, very eclectic, everything from bluegrass to Mahler. Yeah. So we knew everything. And my dad played a lot of instruments and mom played. So, yeah. So it's amazing, though, to think back about what moved you, what gave you the inspiration is kind of a dumb word, but something inside woke up, and I thought, wow, if I could ever do that, that would be so cool.
Mhm.
It's been a minute ago, but hey, here we are, right?
Yes.
So do either of you want to read the Wendell Berry? I pulled it up. Oh, did you
I
pull
would
it
love
up?
to, yes.
That would be
I
great.
had it
So
prepped on my phone.
you got to tell the story, though. Did we didn't tell the story yet, did we?
No, we didn't.
All right, we need to
You asked the question, but we didn't actually answer it.
Yeah, so the album is the Wood Drake Sessions, hopefully volume 1.
I hope
you're,
so. Yeah.
You're not Wood Drake. You're not a traveling duo called Wood Drake, but tell us where this came from.
Yeah, so I mean, like we said, we were writing music in the early stages of 2020, early days of the pandemic, when the world was kind of upside down and life was confusing, and we were washing off grocery bags, disinfecting them, and we were singing these songs that would kind of reoriented us to what was true and what was beautiful. And as we thought about getting these songs out, obviously we needed to have a name, and we thought about a bunch of different things. And I had been just loving reading poems by Wendell Berry over the previous couple of years, and I think Kirk had just finished Jayber Crow as well. And as we were trying to think about like, what should we call this project? I read this poem, and it so captured what we wanted these songs to do and what they were doing in our own lives. And so let me read it. It's called The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests, in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world, and I am free. Now, when we read that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that's what we want our songs to do, to take us from places of despair that the world gives us, to lead us back behind our house to the still waters, and to bring us calm, to remind us of the grace of God, His presence, and the calm that can bring.
Yeah.
Wood drake.
Ditto.
It's like,
Yeah.
Wood drake, yeah.
which is a male duck.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a beautiful poem. It's
It is.
gorgeous. The daylight stars that are hiding.
Yeah.
It's just great imagery.
Yeah, I remember when I read it, I remember just physically just taking a deep breath and just the power of it was just such a powerful
Yeah.
read. And just I felt the experience of the
Right.
poem and just reading it, And so
And that's the beauty of good poetry, as well as well-crafted, beautiful songs. To bring people into a sense of place, a sense of atmosphere, and emotion, if you will. And we all have our favorite songs that do that. They do something to us and pull us into a mindset, if you will. It's kind of an aural experience that moves us emotionally or brings a sense of God's peace, So I'm reminded through your songs, of some things that maybe I've lost sight of in how the first song, Sandra McCracken, Oh, How Good, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Good to be together.
So just thinking about the feelings I've had in my lifetime of gathering together with believers and sensing the goodness of the Lord, that's what that song does. And then the one we've already referred to, the scripture, you've dealt bountifully with me, a little King James-ish, but it's still good, it's really cool. And
keeping it old school,
keeping it old school. I mean, we don't use words like bountiful, but that much, but it's beautiful the way you guys, wrote that. So if you had to pick a favorite song, Kirk, on the record, what's your favorite child in this?
My favorite baby.
In this past one.
Can you have favorite children?
Secretly.
The
I mean,
secret.
I'm fortunate because we only have one kid, so it's like I'm
Right.
good there.
God, I just answered this question. What was?
You said I see a king.
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Well, I See a King. That was more from the
More meaningful.
more meaningful. I think about honestly, if I had a favorite, if I just had to listen to the tune, I love Where I Belong, which is there's not a single on there, but I just love the feel of it. It's such a fun song to me,
So fun.
and just musically, it's probably my favorite. I just love it's just this huge jam at the end where all the musicians that we had on it just went to town and had fun.
Yeah.
So it's like a 6-minute song or something like that, and half of it is like a jam at the end, and it's just a blast.
Not radio friendly at all.
No,
not at
of
all.
course not. Not at 6.
It's it's fun to just, and honestly, it's also just really fun to play live. Too. So that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. Well, what's the one question nobody's asking that you wish they would?
Wow. I think that's the question.
You nailed it.
You just hit it.
Thank you.
Hmm.
What's the one thing you wish the world knew about you guys that they probably wouldn't?
Wow. There's going to be an edit moment, right?
Sure, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that.
You're asking 2 Enneagram 9s to
Wow.
come up with this on the spot. This is,
That's too hard. Yeah. You just told me everything I need to know. Yeah. Are you guys going to play some songs for us today then?
we totally will. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see us stumped the band with that
I'm thinking.
Are you really?
My wheels are turning. Though. That's a wonderful question.
I love the question.
All
I
right.
absolutely love it. I've asked that question to people before, and I don't have a good answer.
2 Enneagram 9s. Jeez.
What do you think?
How do you?
What is in your opinion? What is the question that most people aren't asking artists? Maybe I can.
Oh, turn it back on the host here. I think that it's so easy in Christianity in general, but when we get into Christian music, it's so easy to be just kind of up on the easiest level of life. You know what I mean? And
Right.
I admire people that will go deeper into their experience. Jason Gray sat here and got pretty vulnerable recently. On the first podcast, he talked about the night that he found himself up in the attic with hose around his neck, and he was about to end it, and with his 2 young boys asleep downstairs. I mean, he just went there, and so the music's cool. I love the music, love your music, but I'm always wondering what's the depth in there, not to just drag, crazy bad stuff out, but where,
Yeah.
where does it all really get real for you guys?
Mhm.
Is that fair? Is that even fair to ask
Oh.
on a show?
It's totally fair to ask.
Yeah.
I love it. It's actually, as you started to answer the question, like I think my the way I would answer it is like how have these songs like been born out of the depths of your being, and how do you want them to relate to your listeners?
Yeah.
It's a similar
Fair enough.
kind of
We'll
thing.
reframe
Yeah.
it that way.
No,
That's
but I
cool.
love
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you're saying. I have 2 answers I can share to that.
And I want to be straight up. I'm not looking for like dirt. It's not
No.
like, oh, hey,
Right,
let's
right,
confess a sin here on
No,
that
no.
Song Revolution. I don't mean it like that, but I mean, I've had some tremendous downtime, in my life. Our whole company really
Right.
came to be out of one of the worst periods of my life.
Mhm.
58 years old, kind of had outgrown a position in ministry that just didn't feel right anymore. And just the way church culture, the way music culture had gone, right?
Mhm.
And it didn't fit anymore. And I had to hit this really crazy bottom before God, opened up what I've now done for 7 years, which is encourage songwriters. And I never would have done it had that one thing been taken away, And so I kind of see that in my life where Ephesians 3:18, God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above and beyond all I could have ever asked or thought. And I'm sitting here with you guys, never would have dreamed that, right? But it took a dark night of my soul. It took something, it required God taking away a whole identity before I found what he wanted in my next. Does that make any sense at all?
Oh yeah.
So I'm grateful, hard as nails, but hey, there's joy now,
Right.
weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just digging around, man. I was trying to find out
Yeah.
what I
Well,
can
Paul's
find.
gonna say something.
I got all sorts of things I love the site. There's so many things here. I mean, I think this whole process has been probably the most honestly that I've come into songwriting, and most of these songs were born out of being honest about my story, about being honest with my heart, what I was wrestling with. I think about our song "Holding Fast to Me." It probably has the most honest first line I've ever written,
Which is,
Jesus, if I'm honest now, my faith is skin and bones. I can hardly pray to you. I need a miracle. And it's like, man, I've been a worship leader for 20 years. I've been an ordained pastor for 10 years. And yet that's been a reality in my heart, to be able to sit there and say, no, like my faith is really thin. And prayer seems like the most distant thing from me. And yet I can tell, and I need to preach to my own heart, that you're holding to me. I can barely hold to you, but I believe that's true, that you're holding to me. That's the kind of songs that I needed to sing. That's the songs that I was aching for in my church. And that's when Kirk and I got together. I was like, man, I have to write honest songs that connect with me. That's really, a lot of the album was born out of that. Bountifully was written after a time of just deep exhaustion. And I wrote kind of the first draft of that song at a campsite on a 4-month road trip as I was sitting there reading through the Psalms. And I came across this, like, he's dealt bountifully with me. Like, man, I don't feel that. I want to feel it so much. Like, I need this song to sing so that I'll feel truth. Grace Will Prevail. It was a song that wasn't born out of hard times, but I knew that it could. And we wrote that, the first song we wrote probably back in 2018. I had no idea that last year I would be sitting beside my dad in the ICU as he was about to die, playing the unmixed cut of that to him as the last song that I got to show him. That as I was looking at him in the darkest moment of my life, that I would believe, yes, like, it looks like darkness and death has won, but God's grace will prevail. And he believes that, and I believe it. Those are the songs that I needed to have. Those are the songs that I still need to have. And I think as we step in this process, I've been just eager and deep, I think very disciplined in saying, these have to be able to, like, minister to my heart. They have to, like, be born out of, like, honesty of what questions, what I'm actually feeling and wrestling with. I think we've been, we've walked that path well and been disciplined about that. And I feel these songs.
Yeah, and I think for me personally, at least, especially in light of this record, I've just felt the polarized society over these past 2 years, and just how, it's just polarized. It's just, you felt the divisiveness of life, and there at times I think part of, even in the idea of the wood drake going down to where the wood drake rests, I think part of this in particular, this record, I don't necessarily say this is always the case for every song, but this record has been unique in that I felt like this has just been a journey to get myself down there, and because I really feel the struggle to just want to listen to the things around me and, like, find, and, like, there's polarization, and in polarization there's sides, and there's
in the church.
It's in the church.
Oh, yeah.
It's in culture, and it's like, and I'm an Enneagram 9. That's a terrible place for me because everything's harmony for an Enneagram 9.
Peacemaker. Yeah, right?
That it's been, I think, to me, like, but at the end, I'm also a wing 8, by the way, so I can turn real hard. I can turn real hard on a dime. But I think with me, like, that's been a real struggle for me. That I think, honestly, writing this song and writing this record has just been a ministry to my own heart, to sort of seeing, like, what do I need to believe, like, right now? What's the most important thing to believe? I don't necessarily believe this right now. That's part of me is like, I need to write this into my own heart again, and because I want to believe what this guy over here is saying, and what that guy over there is saying, and what this guy over here is saying, and then you just find yourself, that's just not a good place for my heart. And so I think that's maybe that's a little bit in where you're going, but I think that's how this record has been just a gift to me personally. It's sort of just been an opportunity to kind of walk with Paul and just sort of talk about, really at like, finding the most compelling way to understand what's going on in our hearts, and in a way that's like you said, just it pricks your heart, and your heart says, yes, that's what I'm feeling, and that's what I want to say right now, And we've really labored to make those songs that, I feel like we have a lot of drafts of these songs. We could probably go back on our phones and find, oh, that sounds great. That's a cool version of that, but we just knew something lyrically was not connecting with us individually. So we had a number of songs we spent a few months on,
Revision after revision.
Yeah, right.
Revision.
We did a lot of revision on these songs. And so,
Well, having been through the album 2.5 times now, I would say that you've accomplished that. And I felt that there was something deeper than maybe we'd gotten to earlier in the conversation. It's hard to go deep just immediately, but especially for nines. I mean, come on. If you're fours like me, you just like, well, just lay it all out. It's right there. But
I'm with you. I'm not far behind you, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready to go deep anytime. Let's go.
I think you really accomplished that in this record. I think it's one that I'll go back to again and again. It will be on my playlist. It's very listenable. It's worshipful, but it's got a little funk, a little rock. It's really good listening. So, you gonna share a couple of tunes with us today?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd love
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Grace will prevail, though the darkness is strong and the burden weighs heavy along. Grace will prevail, for our God is the light, rending the cover of night. Grace will prevail. Grace will prevail in the valleys of shame, where the echoes of failure remain. Grace will prevail with a cry to the Lord. There's a mountain of mercy in store. Grace will prevail. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our rest and reward in our peace. Grace will prevail through the wreckage and storm, and the brokenness washed on the shore. Grace will prevail. Though in ocean we cry, He is with us and weeps by our side, till the day they forever run dry. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our rest and reward and our peace. Take heart, He has overcome the world. He has overcome. Take heart, He has overcome the world. He has overcome. Take heart, take heart. He has overcome the world. He has overcome. Take heart, take heart. He has overcome the world. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our rest and reward and our peace. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our God. Wait for the Lord our rest and reward and our peace. Grace will prevail.
All right. Well, this one is called "Oh How Good to Be Together." Ready? Yep. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
good to be together in this weary world we try. What a gift, what a treasure, kindred in the house of God. On this day the Lord has fashioned, come rejoice with all your might. Raise a banner of salvation, He has led us through the night. Oh, the joy, oh, the sweetness, to be gathered in the name of the Lord. Evermore He will keep us from the valley to the golden shore. When it looked like evil conquered, when we felt the darkest hour, in despair we sought the Father, He has proved His mighty power. Oh, the joy, oh, the sweetness, to be gathered in the name of the Lord. Evermore He will keep us from the valley to the golden shore. Tell the theme of His provision, how He met our every need. He has been our firm foundation, and He will ever always be. Oh, the joy, oh, the sweetness, to be gathered in the name of the Lord. Evermore He will keep us from the valley to the golden shore. Oh, the joy, oh, the sweetness, to be gathered in the name of the Lord. Evermore He will keep us from the valley to the golden shore. From the valley to the golden shore.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the show today. I hope that you'll jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and check out all the resources there to encourage you in your own songwriting. And if you like what we're doing, why not share this episode out on your socials? You can find the link in the show notes. We'll see you next time.